I'm gonna draw a cell. This is a cell. A cell is a mini human. Mini human being. Look at it like this, and it really is like this. It's like billions of you come together to make you. And it's exactly made like a little human. And I'll talk about it. It has a membrane. That membrane is like your membrane. We have a skin. This is our membrane, our exterior membrane. Membrane acts like the skin. It also has a brain in the center. It has a core. Its brain is called the nucleus. We have a brain too. I'm not a good speller, but the information is 100% correct. So be grateful and you check yourself. Okay. All right. You guys remember the rule on tubes? If something goes through it, if it's air or fluid, if that tube gets smaller in circumference, what happens to the name?
It gets longer.
It gets longer.
The tube gets smaller, so the name gets longer.
Your mini human also has organs.
Okay.
That's what we call those organs inside the mini human. Okay, thank you.
This happened last time too.
Yeah, it's just low power.
Recording.
All right. No, I deleted everything. Actually, it was even though I deleted it, it was going to my recent deleted. So like I had like 800 things, and that's why it wasn't. I was like, oh, that's why it wasn't. All right. So the nucleus is the brain, and there are a whole bunch of organs inside here. A whole bunch. The ones that we care about the most for this class are called mitochondria. Okay, they're oval shaped. There's a whole bunch of different organelles. Okay, this is a mitochondria. Which is one of the organelles. It's an organ for the cell. It's an organ for your mini human. Okay. And then besides this, there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there. Like it's a legit little mini body. You're gonna have like other little organs that do stuff. Right? It's a whole bunch of stuff. They're all organs. It's like we have organs. It's the same thing. And there's actually something in here that acts like a skeleton. It's a very thick fluid that keeps everything kind of in place. Kind of like how we have like a Ziploc bag as well. It's a membrane that goes in and around and covers all of our organs to keep them in place so they don't move. So they're not just slushing around every time we're doing something. This also has that same thing. Okay? And believe it or not, your little mini human also has a haircut. They have hair. They have hair. You guys ever heard of the word cilia? Okay, cilia is a word you're gonna hear all the time. Cilia are inside your hollow organs, but they're also on your cells. They're everywhere. Cilia are made of the exact same thing that your hair is made of. The exact same thing. But when you open up a body, it's not gonna look like that because it's soggy. They're moist inside, so it's gonna look different, right? It's like if you put your hand in water for a very long time, it's gonna look all mushy, and if you take it out, you're like, oh, that's an old person's hand. You didn't know any better, right? Same thing. So if you were to open up a human being and you see all these cilia, all these hair, like that's not hair, but it is hair. It's made of the exact same substance your hair is. Okay, it's just called cilia because it's inside. All right, we want to focus on this. Make that your focus for a little bit. Somewhere on your notebook, make a little side note. Because mitochondria is a super important organelle because that is where life comes from within our mini humans. In every cell, there's a mitochondria, and the mitochondria is life force. As long as we provide it with what it needs so it can stay alive, you're gonna stay alive. And don't feed garbage, but there's garbage everywhere. All right, so the next picture, the next slide is, I think it's just like a less impressive version of my drawing. Oh no, it's not. This one is. But this is everything I just talked about. So if you want to get this verbiage, cell membrane protects and selectively allows water and water substances in and out, just like your skin does too. There are patches, there are medicine patches. Your skin absorbs stuff. They're just little versions of us that make us. Mitochondria, again, this is where it matters. The mitochondria, super important. Mitochondria, what happens in there, glucose goes into the cell. So the glucose is gonna go in there. And other nutrients. What we really care about is oxygen. For the purpose of this lecture. So glucose and oxygen get turned into adenosine triphosphate, ATP. This is life. This is what I was talking about. This gets created. Think of a spark. Think of a spark, energy. Okay? And then I'm gonna compare us to cars. Have I compared us to cars before?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it again. And it'll help you out.
Yeah.
Okay. So the fuel for the cell function, without ATP, many of the cells would die, then you would die. Because the cells make the tissue make organs make the human that is you. Okay? So if your mini humans die, guess who's gonna die? The big you's gonna die too. Okay? So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna go over this process of how this kind of happens inside the cell. And then I'm gonna do an analogy, compare us to cars. Okay? Cool. That's what I'll do. All right, so we'll say that this is a big old cell right here, right? Big cell. Big cell. You have your nucleus, which is the brain of the cell. And then you have the mitochondria. The mitochondria are in a few locations. All right? What happens inside the mitochondria? What two things meet there? Oxygen and glucose. Okay? So what happens is that, let's say, use this one. First off, let me kind of revert. I'm gonna go back just a little bit and talk about how everything works. So we'll say that this is a cell, right? With the nucleus, it's a cell. Cells make tissue. Tissue. So there's a whole bunch of little cells in here, right? They make the tissue. Kind of like how string, yarn, makes a little material of jeans. This is going on here. The yarn is like the cells. The tissue is like a piece of cloth. Okay, that make. Okay. And then I'm sorry, I'm not like, do you guys get it? All right. And then the tissue will eventually, just like the material, will form an organ. We'll call this the pancreas. Now you got a whole bunch of material that you made with the string. The string is the cells, the material, the patches. You got enough going together, and now you got a whole organ, a whole pair of pants. Okay? Called the pancreas. And then all these organs go together. Now you got a shirt. Now we got the human. Right? We got more organs. Sorry about that. Okay? That makes sense a little bit more, kind of? All right, so what we're doing is all the blood vessels that are going to your body, right, are going to travel through your organs, which means they're going to travel through your tissues, which means they're going to slide right through your cells to dump that oxygen and glucose in there. So that line represents blood flowing. If it's going to flow through your pancreas, it's going to flow through the tissue that makes the pancreas, which is going to go down to the cells, which make the tissue, and that's where everything's needed to keep the power plant going. Okay? Give you guys a little time. All right, so what's going to happen is oxygen, and for the purpose of this lecture, which I think is going to help me out a little bit, I'm going to explain this in two different ways. One, I think some people will get it. The other one, if certain demographics get this one that I'm talking about, and other demographics get it if you're more into cars or mechanics. That way I can get more people to understand this. So let's call this hotel cell. This is a hotel. So we'll say this cell is a hotel. All right, so we'll say it's hotel cell. Hotel cell. And let's say that Miss O2, gonna call her Miss O2, Miss, wants to meet Mr. Glucose, Mr. G, right? They're gonna meet. You guys ever been to like the real fancy hotels or see one like a Home Alone where they have like the doorman and stuff like that? Perfect. Okay. So let's go ahead and say that Miss O2 made it there first. Mr. Glucose is working. I don't know. So they're gonna meet up here. They're married. Want to see each other. Spend some time together. Some quality time together, away from the kids. So let's get a room. Let's just play video games and talk about our feelings all day. Okay. Well, Miss O2 is a little bit smaller, a little bit better looking, so she can get into the hotel no problem. It's easier for females to get into places usually. Okay? But Mr. Glucose is a little bit bigger, looks a little sketchy, so the doorman stops him. Says, well, hold up. Who are you? Show me your card. Let me make sure you're here before you go into my fancy hotel. All right. So there's actually, and the reason I'm saying that is because oxygen gets into the cell no problem. It's so small and tiny, it can just go in there. Okay? Glucose is not. Glucose is a bigger molecule because glucose comes from food. We have to chew it, process it, and it's still too big, so it needs help. O2, it comes in, it's easy, right? That makes sense. All right, so there's actually something called insulin, and we're gonna talk about it in a bit, and that's why I talked about the pancreas. It's all gonna tie in together, okay? So insulin is needed to open up a door, like the doorman for a fancy hotel, to allow for Mr. Glucose to go in, right? And who's already at the mitochondria suite? So this is one of those fancy mitochondria suites. This is the mito suite. Right? It's supposed to be a hotel. It's the Mito Suite. Miss O2's already in here. She got in here no problem, right? That was too easy. Mr. Glucose had to wait a little bit, get off of work, and then they meet inside the Mito Suite, the mitochondria suite, the fancy suite, to make what? They're gonna make babies. Those babies are called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate, that is life. That's that energy. Okay, adenosine triphosphate. The mitochondria convert glucose and oxygen into adenosine triphosphate. It happens in the mitochondria, and that's why I broke it down for you guys. Okay, insulin will come back into play in a little bit. Go ahead. All right, and then what is the byproduct of making oxygen in your body with oxygen and glucose? What do you breathe out? CO2. Exactly. And so think of this almost like a division equation. Sometimes in division you have a remainder, right? This is the leftover. CO2. So guess what happens to the CO2? The CO2 leaves the cell, goes into the tissue, and then into this